way through the Vishwarupa Darshana, meaning the vision of the cosmic form. And again, this is not about something scary or terrible. The underlying meaning of all this is for us to be able to see the self in and through all the objects.
Jim, do you also mean like inanimate objects?
Yes, everything is God. Easiest way to understand it, not necessarily come to experience it. But if you have a dream, you are the God of your dream. And if you dream you are out sailing on the bay, so you have a dream body which becomes your locus of perception, but you see the dream world. You have a dream ego identified with that dream body. And then you have dream objects. You see the dream sailboat, you see the dream ocean, you see the dream Alcatraz Island, etc. Inside you have dream feelings, and oh, this is so great to be out sailing. Oh, I'm short. You have fear, whatever it is. So, is the island, is the boat any less you than the dream body? Is it? Both come about as imagination. So the idea is the phenomenal world comes about by means of imagination, by means of God's Sankalpa. The world is not created the way a potter creates a pot. That's the classic example. We have three ways of looking at cause. We have material cause. What do you make the pot out of? Clay. We have instrumental cause. How do you get it done? You put it on the potter's wheel. We have efficient cause. Who's doing it? The potter. The potter takes the clay on the potter's wheel and makes the pot out of the clay. In Vedanta, what's the material cause of the phenomenal world? Consciousness. What's the instrumental cause of the phenomenal world? Consciousness. Who is the efficient cause of the phenomenal world? Consciousness. So if you look at the various Hindu deities, they're usually presented to us as a pair. Shiva, Shakti, Radha, Krishna, Sita, Ram. What does that mean? There's always their divine wedding. So in that paradigm, the male figure is usually perceived of as absolute pure awareness, which does nothing, kind of like most husbands, does nothing. And then the female is Shakti. She does everything. Shiva is always wedded to Shakti. To frame it in other terms, Maya the locus of Maya is Brahman. And Maya is co-eternal with the self. So out of consciousness in the now waves this world. Both animate and inanimate. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's huge ramifications to this. First of all, just like in the dream state, if you have a good dream or you have a nightmare, they never touch you, the waker. Terrible dream, you wake up and go, oh, thank God, that was just a dream.
Yeah.
But if you have a dream you win a lottery, you wake up, oh, that would have been so great. Oh, back to working for a living. It's just a dream, it's just imagination. So also, the play of Maya, Shakti with all her powers, cannot function without consciousness. She is in fact consciousness, appearing as the world of name and form and all the energy in it. But the substratum is never touched by it. So in the work, there are three questions we want to answer. The first, who am I? What is my essential nature? And our primary practice for doing that is subject-object discrimination. I am not the body, I am not the prana, I am not the feelings, I am not the thoughts, I'm not even the ego sense. Who am I? I am that witnessing consciousness. Never seen as an object, the eternal subject, the knower of the field in all fields, we learned in a prior chapter. Do you remember that? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. What about this not self? Well, we fooled you. There is no not self. What we've been calling the not self is the self. So we have what we call nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities. The eternal subject, I. And then sa guna Brahman. Sa means with qualities. The phenomenal world. The world of name.
So is there any difference between inanimate and sentient beings?
Well, there is and there isn't. In the relative reality of this world, in the dream, Ishvara's dream, of course there's a difference. You're a stupid rock. You can't do anything right. He doesn't care. Say that to a child and watch what happens.
Mm.
You're the best rock there ever was. You're going to be successful as a rock. Doesn't change. Say that to a child. Say that to your husband. Say that to yourself. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the difference? Not the ground of being, but the equipment, the upadhis, we call them. The rock has no manas, no mind. Tree has a rudimentary mind. People who talk to their plants, they grow because plants have a rudimentary mind. They can respond. See, a lizard is not nearly as conscious as a puppy. So in this world, some of us have a life that seems to be filled with heartache and struggle. They get caught up in the vicissitudes of life and they suffer, suffer, suffer. Other people, even though calamity may be happening around them, seem not to be touched by it.
Mm.
One of my favorite examples of this, if you see the movie Gandhi, have you seen it in years?
Not recently.
There's a scene where he's arrested by the British and he's put in prison. And it drove the Brits nuts because they could not imprison Gandhiji. They could put his body in a cell. But his consciousness, his state of mind was such that he was at peace wherever he was. He kept reading, he kept writing, he kept spinning his block. Whereas you and I, there's a moth hole in my cashmere sweater. I'm wrecked. So we have a world that's filled with lots of suffering. Perhaps it always will be. The vast majority of it is caused by the ignorance of human beings. But there are those people who to some degree lift their individual consciousness. I mean, their chaitanya, not the ground of being awareness. That doesn't change. But they lift their mind states to a higher level. And one of the things we want to understand in this particular chapter is we want to begin to meditate on the fact that we live in God's universe. And if we can stop the fighting, stop being so afraid. There's a slogan that comes out of the Course in Miracles. I read that book back in the 70s. I've forgotten everything except this one slogan. I'm frightened because I see a meaningless universe. I see a meaningless universe because I'm in competition with God. So once I quit competing with God, I begin to entertain the thought I live and I move and I have my being in the divine, which is a cosmos, not a chaos. You may correct me if you wish as a physicist. Jung called it synchronicity. As we lift our state of mind, we begin to see how connected everything really is. We get what a lot of people call God shots. You know, oh, I wonder what I'm going to do about such and such and so and so. And the next thing you know, someone shows up in your life who has the exact answer. Have you had those kind of moments?
It's been happening a lot recently.
What it is you are moving out of a consciousness of fight and struggle and fear, which shuts us off from being able to participate as fully as we might in this divine vision. And many of you have heard me say, I live in a beneficent universe, in a good universe that conspires for my well-being. True story. I was sitting in this chair, had a friend sitting over there, and he was a vaccine denier. And he's gone down all the rabbit holes on the internet. But you can't trust this, and you can't trust that, and you can't trust this, and you can't trust that. And Fauci owns stock at Pfizer, and all these companies are on the boards of the media, and blah, blah, blah. You just can't trust them. You can't trust them. You can't trust them. And I said, stop. I don't live in your world. I live in God's world. I live in a world where God's in charge. I live in a world where I can see the cosmic form. It's all God. It's all going to work out. And I can trust the universe. Yeah, we have to understand God has some pretty strong sankalpas of his own. One of them is nobody gets out alive. So it doesn't mean you're going to live forever and look 25. But that's my desire. I can let go of attachment. I can see the great beauty, the great wonder, and the great synchronicity of God. The more we lift our state of consciousness into that realm, then we can become vehicles for great and marvelous things. I was talking to another fellow yesterday and said, well, what about, I really want this God consciousness, but, I want my career as a musician and my career as a performer and all this sort of stuff. And I said, they're not mutually exclusive. The more God conscious you become, not everybody's meant to be a teacher or a healer. Some people are meant to be performers or physicists. Many great scientists are quite mystical. Has that been your experience, Jack?
Indeed. I think deep thinkers tend
Yes.
to gravitate towards this.
Yes. Why? Because as they deeply think and ponder, our minds are lifted up. We get these intimations of this vast, incredible. It is the Vishwarupa. Vishwa means the world we perceive in the waking state. Rupa means form. Cosmic form. So this is done as allegory. Arjuna says, dude, I've seen your glories. Now I want to see your cosmic form. And that's where we left off. We started on it last week. Any thoughts about this?
I have a thought or a question.
Please.
What is the impact of taking consciousness out of the universe?
What is the impact of taking consciousness out of the universe?
Yeah.
That's like saying, what is the impact of taking paint out of a painting? So you're looking at a painting made with acrylic paint, beautifully done. What happens to the painting if you take all the paint out?
Becomes interesting.
There's nothing there.
Nothing.
What is the painting made of? Paint on the canvas. You can't take consciousness out of the universe.
What happens like when an animal is killed for food? Does consciousness go out of the universe there?
No. No. Just the name and the form shift. Energy and matter. Nothing is destroyed. Just changes form.
I have another question then. Is consciousness conserved quantity, or is it ever increasing?
What the scriptures say is the ground of being, consciousness, is infinite. Krishna, I think it's in the 4th chapter, says, in one tiny corner, my infinite being, it's so small I can barely see it, is the whole universe.
Okay, that's cool.
That's very funny.
What?
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's what he says.
I like it. It's cool.
So we have, when I took Nature of Math, I had a hard time with this class. When they talked about different sizes of infinity,
Yeah,
just boggled my mind.
I was going to ask you about that, but I thought guess not.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, is it accountable in infinity or uncountable? But
Well, like real numbers, there's an infinite number of real numbers. Between the real number 1 and 2, there's an infinite number of unreal numbers.
yeah, that's a continuous set, and you have discrete sets as well.
So you've got bigger and littler infinities.
Mhm.
So all of it, it's beyond our capacity to think about it. But what we want to, the practical teaching of this chapter is to the degree that we can turn our lives and our will over to the care of this cosmic consciousness. In the Christian scripture, the Master Jesus said, I of myself do no thing. It is the Father within that doeth the work. He was empty. Hey, Jesus, how do you do all these miracles? He says, my Father always hears me because I do his will. It's paradoxical. The more we let go of egoism, I want to do things my way, we become a transparency. And then this power, this mother, this Shakti, whoosh, comes through. So our job is to see the phenomenal world as this great cosmic form that's intelligent, that's organized. We may not understand it at the very basic level. I was watching Nova, all this stuff about different kinds of neutrinos. I just made my head spin. And then dark matter and dark energy. What is it?
That'd be nice. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's there. And I'll bet that it acts according to law. Because that's how the universe runs. We just don't understand all the laws yet. All right, let's get into the scripture. But the reason I'm talking about this, I don't want us to have like this, oh, this is just, superstition and stuff about this cosmic form business. There's a real practical teaching. Because I'm frightened because I see a meaningless universe. I think it's chaotic. I think it's dangerous. I think they're out to get me. But if I don't wrestle everything to the ground, I'm going to be wiped out. I need to take revenge on my enemies. I need to puff up my ego or nobody will know I'm important. Yoga says exactly the opposite. It's all going to be okay. All is okay. All will be well because all is well. If you live in that world, you have to come out of the hell of a fearful world. The Uber driver or the bus driver or the person walking down the street can be 3 feet away from you and living in a different world because of their state of mind. All right, let's get into the verse. We're on 12. Is that the verse we're on?
Yes,
Would you help us out, please, Deepa?
sure. Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhavedyugpaduttita Yadi Bha Sadrishi Sa Syadbha Sastasya Mahatmana. If the splendor of 1,000 suns was to blaze all at once, simultaneously in the sky, that would be like the splendor of that mighty being or great soul.
So as we intuit, remember he opened the third eye, the Jnana Chakshu, the eye of wisdom, to see the beauty and the organization and the splendor of the universe. I can't remember, is your field astrophysics, or did you get your degree in that, or was it the little stuff,
Little stuff.
the quantum?
Yeah.
Okay. He doesn't do the big stuff, he does the
I like the little stuff.
Okay.
I did.
But the point is how big, how vast is the universe? And how small and how incredible are all these building blocks? Did you do things like string theory and membrane brains and stuff like that?
That's too small. That was much smaller than what I was doing. I was doing kind of quantum mechanics, atoms, up to meter scales, from meters to nanometers or angstroms.
But you found it was pretty wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Still is.
Definitely.
And if you dive into any part of the world, it's incredibly beautiful and wonderful and splendid. One of the things that I think is a valuable meditation, it's what's called aesthetic theology, the theology of beauty itself. When you see someone or something that you think is beautiful. And it doesn't have to just be a form, it can be an equation. It can be a computer program. When there's beauty in the world, something in us responds to it. It's another way in which we experience the divine. Next verse, number 13.
Tatraikastham jagat kritsnam pravibhaktamanekadha apashya deva devasya sharire pandavastada. There in the body of the god of gods, the Pandava.
Sorry, they're in the body of what?
There in the body of the god of gods,
Yes, okay.
the Pandava then saw the whole universe resting in one, with all its infinite parts.
So it's not that God's in the mandir, in the temple, and then there's the material world out there. No. Inside of consciousness is the entire phenomenal universe. Again, this becomes easy to understand if you look at the dream state. You are the God of your dream. Every single part of your dream is contained within you. So also all of this is contained within Krishna. You pervade every element of your dream. The dream is nothing but your mind appearing as people, places, things, and conditions. So also the entire universe is nothing but Krishna, nothing but consciousness. Awesome, beautiful. And don't leave your own equipment out. That's why you can't try to be somebody else. They're taken. You can only be you. I think the best example of that is a snowflake. All snowflakes are water. All people are Krishna. But every snowflake is a unique crystalline structure. No two are alike. Is that right?
Mhm.
So you are as unique as a snowflake at the level of your equipment. Your job is to be the best you can be. Next verse.
Tatah sa vismayavishto Rishtaro Dhananjaya Pranamya Shirasa Devam Krita Jallira Bhashata. Then Dhananjaya, filled with wonder, with his hair standing on end, bowed down his head to the god and spoke with joined palms.
So when he sees the cosmic vision, he's overcome with awe. Now, true story. Someone was talking with me this past week, and they were saying, Jim, when I'm meditating, all of a sudden it feels like I'm disappearing into nothing, and it's almost like I have vertigo, and I'm frightened. Should I stop it? And I said, this is good news. Congratulations. Because as we begin to have the ego dissolve, and as we penetrate into its all God, all consciousness, it's humbling. And for some people, it's frightening. Don't worry. You are safe. But everything you've held on to as a phony identity, this chit chaya, this shadow self, all gets blasted and taken away. Ego will hang on for dear life. It would be comparable to when Galileo was looking through his telescope at the rings of Saturn and the moons of Jupiter, and the doctors of the church came. He says, but look, we don't have to look. We see with the eyes of faith. The world's flat. The sun and everything rotates around the earth. That's ego. It won't look. It won't see the truth. Not knowing that in that truth is incredible freedom and incredible safety. Next verse.
Arjuna Vacha.
I think this is a double meter here.
Yes, yes. Pashyami devamstava devadehe sarvamstatha bhuta vishesha sanghan brahmanamisham kamalasanastam rishimscha sarvanuragamscha divyan. Arjuna said, I see all the gods, O God, in your body, and also hosts of various classes of beings. Brahma, the god of creation, seated on the lotus, all the rishis and celestial serpents.
So, one of the things that we begin to see is all the various gods that we worshiped. Be they the Hindu pantheon or the Western ones. All of them are masks of the infinite. The Upanishad says it is not that which you worship here. And the rishis, all the gurus, again, Swamiji used to say, find out who the guru is. So my own journey in the beginning, oh, Swamiji. And then at some point I learned to tune up to it. And oh, there was this vast end. And he would say, use the guru. Doesn't matter where I am, you tune up to me. Just bring me to mind. Just think about him. Here in California, he was off in India. vast emptiness, this incredible bliss. And I realized, he tricked me. It's myself. When you find out who you are, you will find out who the Guru is, who Shankara is, who Vyasa is. We were talking about the states of mind. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. Self of the great Mahatma and the self of the most miserable of creatures. What's the difference? Their minds. The miserable creature has a mind covered in ignorance. Mind of the great Mahatma is awake. All of them are in Krishna.
Jim, is it worth then trying to increase consciousness of yourself and everyone else? And if so, why does it matter if the ground of being is infinite consciousness?
Because infinite consciousness is what has the problem. It's your mind. My problem is I'm dissatisfied. I'm unhappy. I suffer. Why do I suffer? Because I'm stupid. How do I get out of my suffering? I get out of my suffering by understanding what its cause is. Its cause is ignorance. So what does self-realization give us? First thing, it frees us from existential fear. I know that the self in me will never be harmed. I don't have to protect or defend it. I finally know where happiness is. Happiness is the mind coming home. I experience that in two ways. I have a mediated experience of it. I interact with an object of the senses. Then I can have a non-mediated experience of it. Just let go. And then what do? Do as you will. Let the Lord use your equipment to accomplish what's supposed to be done. In the meantime, practice. In the beginning, we do thought replacement. We take the negative thinking, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, think I'll go eat worms. And we say, no, the scriptures tell me I live and move and have my being involved. It's going to be okay. I'm going to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. I'm going to pray for guidance. What do you want me to do, God? I'm going to do my best to get rid of my resentments, my fears. Let them go. Give them to God. Eventually, even we let go of those auspicious samskaras. That's the process. That's abhyasa. Viveka, Vairagya. Is that useful?
Thank you.
Next verse.
अनेकबाहुदरवक्त्र नेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपं नान्तं न मध्यं न पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप. I see thee of boundless form on every side, with manifold arms, stomachs, mouths, and eyes. Neither the end nor the middle, nor also the beginning do I see, O Lord of the universe, O cosmic form.
So he now, by grace, because Krishna has popped him on the beanie, able to see everyone as a manifestation of the divine. But like everything else in Gita, there's a praxis, there's a practice implied. So here, our greatest modern example is Mother Teresa of Calcutta. So her practice was to serve the poorest of the poor and endeavor to see every single one of them as the face of Christ. Riffing on the Christian scripture, when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me water to drink, etc. The disciples said, when did you do that? When did we do that? I said, whenever you did this to the least of these, you did it to me. So when you're in the sales meeting, when you're dealing with the problematic people of life, do what you can to remember, okay, the being looking out of those eyes is Krishna. The dog is Krishna. The dog poop is Krishna. Person with off-the-wall ideas about the world, they're Krishna. So here Arjuna by grace sees everyone. Every face is the face of Krishna. Every stomach, Krishna's stomach. Sense perception can be incredibly powerful. In 73, I was living in this really cool old Victorian, 3-story Victorian on Dwight and Telegraph in Berkeley. Still there, I don't know who owns it now. There were a bunch of hippies living there. And there was this stairway from the ground floor up to the second floor where most of the bedrooms were. And we used to play this game. We had this prism, this triangular piece of glass. What you do is you'd be at the top of the stairs, and then you'd look through the prism and try to walk down the stairs. And what the prism did is it made the riser seem like it was about 1.5 feet. It's an optical illusion. You knew the stairs were the way they'd always been. But it was so funny to watch people because they put their foot out and they go like that with their foot, because He was convinced it was like a foot and a half, not how long is your average riser? 6 inches? Something like that. It's hysterical to see it happen and to do it. But our senses lie to us. Our senses say a world of name and form that's material and separate. It's joy-giving and misery-producing. There are good people and bad people. I need to love these and hate those. It's an optical illusion, a cosmic optical illusion. It's all God. Now, if Jesus or Lord Krishna were standing right here, or Swamiji, how would you feel in the presence of the sacred? Oh, that's what's going on all the time. Lift your vision. See what's really true. Everyone is an avatar, divine incarnation of God. Even if they don't know. And amazing things happen when you speak to that God consciousness in them. It to some degree starts to pull it out. People start to treat you differently, behave differently. They're not threatened by. Next verse.
Kiritinam gadinam chakrinam cha tejo rashim sarvato deeptimantam pashyami tvam niriksham samantat deeptana larka dyutimaprameyam. I see thee with crown, club, and discus, a mass of radiance shining everywhere, very hard to look at, all round blazing, like burning fire and sun, and incomprehensible.
So again, we can say this form that we see in statues frequently, but it's metaphor. I see you with crown, which means rulership. God's in charge. Shorthand form of all this. I can't, he can. I think I'll let him. One of my favorite prayers, there's this fellow, Father Michael Judge. He was a Franciscan, and he was the first recorded death on 9/11. He was the chaplain to the New York City Fire Department. And his prayer, you see it on the internet. God, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say, and keep me out of your way. I just love that prayer. So, rulership. So, club, power. Power. Lack of power is our dilemma in life. I want to do this, that, and the other thing, and I'm impotent. So here the invitation is tap into a power greater than your ego. Let go and let go. Discus. Forget what the symbolism is of the discus. I think it slices, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes the head off.
Yeah, and I think the major thing is it's about discrimination. It separates ignorance from knowledge, truth from falsehood. So this power of the infinite in the world does that too. So for example, let's say you're talking with your spouse and they get pissed off. Stop doing that. You have a character defect. You have a bad habit and it's annoying. That's never happened between you two, has it? Now, what ego says is, I'm okay, you're just being defensive. Blah, 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 blah. You know, ego wants to defend, protect, fight, flight, or freeze. So the discus says, let me lean into this. Let me lean into this. Take a look. Do I have that character defect? Okay, now you give that to Krishna too. Krishna, it's up to you. Help me with this. Well, honey. That's the mother. That's Mother Shakti working in us. Scraping off the rough edges of our egos. Any thoughts on that? So whenever we get criticism, first of all, it's all about the person who's doing the criticizing. It's their projection. But why are they projecting it onto you? Always a value to take a look. He defends. Next verse. Those were the three, wasn't it? Crown, club, and discus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Twamaksharam paramam veditavyam twamasya vishwasya param nidhanam twamavyayam shashvata dharma gopta sanatanastvam purusho mato me. You are the imperishable, the supreme being worthy to be known. You are the great treasure house of this universe. You are the imperishable protector of the eternal Dharma. In my opinion, you are the ancient Purusha.
Yes. So first of all, this double meter that we have here, Vyasa, our poet, uses this whenever he wants the speaker to be expressing intense emotion. So Arjun here is pretty worked up. So here in this verse, let's go through each one of these ideas that he sees in Lord Krishna. So what's the first one, Deepa?
Oh, sorry, I turned the page just a second.
You are the imperishable.
Yes. So from the standpoint of the ground of being consciousness, nothing ever touches it. I does not perish. And in terms of the divine Leela, the play, it too is imperishable. always changing, but it keeps going on. Don't worry about it. Next idea.
The supreme being worthy to be known.
What is it by which everything is known, without which nothing can be known, beyond which there is nothing to know? What is the end of knowledge? Veda Anta. Anta means end. Veda comes from the root vid, to know. Vedanta is the end of knowledge, meaning it's yourself. Who am I? What is this world and how has it come about? Next idea.
You are the great treasure house of this universe.
Yes. So if I win the lottery, how am I going to feel? Happy. If I find the ideal husband or wife, how am I going to feel? Happy. If I get the job I've always wanted, how am I going to feel? Happy. I have all the treasures in the world. Why do I get them? So I'll be happy. Yoga says, why don't you go straight for the happiness? So you're not attached to, dependent upon the things of this world. This is the pearl of great price. The Master Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. I have a treasure you know not of. Next idea.
You are the imperishable protector of the eternal Dharma.
Yes. So this eternal Dharma, this science of self-knowledge, is part of what makes us human. Just like every single one of us can trace our lineage back to a primordial Eve, a woman in the Aldovai Gorge in Africa. We're all related to her. And you know, men and women do the mufti pufti and offspring, and they do the mufti pufti. It goes on and on and on, unbroken. Alongside that is the eternal Dharma. Purana, ancient, Sanatana. As long as there have been people, this secret knowledge is part of who we are. It was taught to me by Swamiji. It was taught to Swamiji by Swami Tapovanam. It was taught to him by his guru, whose name I do not know. Goes back in an unbroken lineage. And God himself is the protector. Meaning, anywhere in the world, people are the same. We have a physical body, we have an emotional life, we have a thought life. At the core of our being is this consciousness. Whenever anyone slows down enough, detaches enough, and inquires into what is my essential nature, come up with the same thing. Next idea.
In my opinion, you are the ancient Purusha.
So Purusha is an ancient word. We have it in the Rig Veda, which is the oldest book in the world. There's a great hymn called the Purusha Sutta, the hymn to the cosmic person. And Gita is largely framed in the Sankhya philosophy. It uses the terminology of the Sankhya philosophy, which posits spirit, Purusha, and Prakriti, nature. And they are, in a sense, the same. Who is Krishna really? He is that ultimate essence of what it is to be a conscious, sentient being. Uttama Purusha, Purushottama. Is that all of the pieces of that verse?
Yes.
All right. This is a good place to stop. What verse will we do next week?
19.
19. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Oh, that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Beautiful chanting, Deepa. Those are not easy verses, those double meter ones.
Thank you. I was just channeling Puneet. Thank you, Jim.